Good afternoon. I'm Kathy from Yoga and Quilts, and I'm here at my cutting table ready to cut some pieces from my stash for a jolly bar. Let's go ahead and get started. Everybody, if you are in the chat, please let me know where you're from and what you're doing on this Mother's Day. I have my rotary cutter here. My table's right down here, and I have these beautiful fig tree fabrics, mostly fig tree, some other Moda designers. Some of the ones on this side I just got in the subscription box. I received it this past week. There's red gingham, a white with some cute, it almost looks like jacks, like when we used to play with jacks. And fabrics from her new Rosy collection, Joanna Figueroa's new Rosy collection, the blue. And then we go into some other older collections like Linen Cupboard, the whites with the very small floral. And then these are other designers from other manufacturers, the brown, orange, and green. And I thought they really went well. So we're going to make our own pre-cuts today. And I thought it would be helpful to start cutting down my yardage in my stash so that I have pre-cuts to work from, because I think that's how I'm going to actually use my fabric that I have. And it really helps to take out that time that it takes to analyze your stash and the going into it, the prep, and the cutting work is already done. There's patterns you can find that are Jolly Bar friendly. Let's talk about what a Jolly Bar is, because it's one of the newest names of pre-cuts that I'm familiar with. And I think it was yesterday was Jolly Bar Day, National Jolly Bar Day. It's a term coined by Fat Quarter Shop, where us sewists and quilters go to get fabric pretty frequently. And it's 42 of 5 by 10 inch cuts. So I made my own as an example. So 5 by 10, this is different fabrics that I've just been sewing with, and they were creating remnants. It's like a lot of Ruby Star, like there's the speckled in the raspberry color. This is Moda, Sherry, and Chelsea in like a citrine. Leans a little bit more yellow. Beautiful stone gray. Yeah. Some Amy Sinibaldi from Art Gallery Fabrics that I just sewed with recently. So we have 42 of those, and I just put them on top of a piece of corrugated board. So if you want to cut along with me and get into your fabric stash, I think it's helpful to have at least 16 different fabrics, and you might have like 2 or 3 repeats of the same one when you get to cutting it down. Get a 5 by 10 piece of corrugated board. I just found a shipping box that I had. A mat, and then a rotary cutter and your acrylic ruler. I'm using a 5 by 15 inch acrylic ruler. And get to making a Jolly Bar with me if you want to play along. Otherwise, whatever you're working on, I'd love to know in the chat. Let's check the chat and see if anybody's here. Okay, it looks like no chat just yet. So I pressed these nicely, so I will try to sit them down nicely, rolling my chair up here, and we'll get started. How I chose these fabrics and had the confidence to think that they probably all go together is I looked at the selvage. Let me find where the selvage is. The selvage edge on the fabric that was inspiring me the most at the time. And I found the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dots on there. Sometimes they appear as dots on selvage, and sometimes they appear as other different figures. But it's really helpful to understand what colors were used in this particular print. So when I go and get solids or any other things from my stash, I can just match it up. So here is the orange, and this is Renee Nanaman for Andover Fabrics that I got last fall when it came out. And you can see there that it matches. I have it draped over that orange dot. It matches really well. For me, it's not just about matching the color. It's also about making sure the prints go well. So when I look at the ditzy floral in the fig tree, and then I look at the very, very small, it's almost revolutionary, what's that called? Civil War reproduction in the orange. It's just very, very tiny. But I like that it reads like a solid because it's a tone on tone. And I think it'll go really nicely. This particular, I have it in the orange ditzy floral and then the red ditzy floral. It's from her earlier collection, Linen Cupboard. So that's a fat quarter of that. When I buy, I tend to buy in fat quarters, and it helps me to just see my stash at a glance instead of yardage. I've been working on, get an example for you. I've been working on cutting all of my yardage down into fat quarters and putting them in these bins I got at IKEA. So that way I can just say, I need an orange. Well, this is actually mostly all one collection by Sherry and Chelsea from Moda. So I leave the collections together if I bought a fat quarter bundle. But here you can see I go into reds and oranges. So I can easily pick, if I see on the gam, on the selvage like I was showing, then I can say, well, I need an orange that kind of goes, and then here's this Bernitex. It's looking red on the camera, but this is a Bernitex orange that might go well too. And then you can, as people in the garment sewing world, I've heard say, you can audition the fabric together. Lay it all out there. So I've already done the auditioning. Put that back on my cupboard. And I'm ready to cut my Jolly Bar. So just draping these over here because you usually get a little bit better cut as far as accuracy if there are not that many creases in the fabric. All right. So soft. You're going to probably see some little threads hanging off. That is not how they arrived. I am a pre-washer. I'm not really a pre-starcher unless it's a specific project and I'm working with wovens like Fabulism. But in the pre-washing process, you do get some threads along the cut edges that want to come off. Okay, so it's a mix of yardage and fat quarters, and this is a great thing to do with, I don't know if this is a scrap or a remnant. I don't know at what point it gets called a scrap. I like the word remnant for anything that's larger than a certain width and height. So here I'm going and I cut off the loose ends so that I get a sharp cut. I just kind of discard that. Texas Roadhouse style. Just throw it on the floor and we'll get it later with the vacuum or with my hands. So got that nice sharp edge. I still have a couple of creases in there from where it was folded, but I did press it pretty well, so you'll be able to get a pretty accurate pre-cut out of that. Okay, so I can tip you down a little bit. Here we go. Pardon my mess on the other side. Sometimes the sewing room ends up being the storage room for paper towels and all sorts of odds and ends. All right, lining up my 5x15 ruler. Gonna go ahead and cut my 5. This is only about an inch, but I'm gonna save it because just in case I want to do foundation paper piecing and I need a little piece in the future, I'll be able to grab that. All right. So just finding any mark where I can line that up. And my edges are going at kind of like an angle. So I put it over one of the lines and I'm going to trim off that little bit so that it's a perfect 45-degree angle. The accuracy in cutting is really gonna benefit later on so that when you're piecing you have the accuracy. Okay, so my cutting mat has a smaller section right in the middle that's a 10 by 10, and I happen to have lined it up right on the edge there. Sometimes I'm not that savvy as I just was with using that particular section of the board. So it looks like from this remnant I'm only going to get one 5 by 10 cut, but I have more of that fabric on my ironing board. So here is my scrap. The other cool thing is this helps you really build up your scrap pile. I'll tip you up and chat at you here for a second. It really helps you to build up your scrap pile because now I have essentially a 5 by 6 rectangle, and as someone who is still I consider myself building up my stash, not really my yardage stash or my fat quarter stash, but my scrap stash. That makes me happy. Here's the first addition to the Jolly Bar. I think they named it Jolly Bar because it looks like a candy bar, and Kimberly Jolly is the CEO or the head honcho of Fat Quarter Shop. So looks like this overhangs just a little bit on either side, but it's perfect as a support. And then how they sell this and retail it is they wrap it real tight in plastic after you have all of your 42 pieces on here. Setting that aside. All right. I need to get a tissue real quick. Pollen season is here and the nose is dripping. I am celebrating Mother's Day today. I'm a mother of 2 young children, ages 3.5 and 1.5, both boys. And I'm finally feeling like I'm recovered from giving birth the second time. I feel like I'm getting my body back, and he's sleeping so well. It's nice. I'm not one of those like exhausted mamas like you often are in the first year. I'm missing my mama today. So my mom would have been 71 this coming week. Her name was Jan. And she taught me how to sew. She taught me how to be a person. So much. She was a really involved mom in my life. She was a full-time working mom and still found ways to connect with us in every breath that she took that she didn't have to be at the office. She was, I would call her a feminist. She would not like that term, but she was what I looked at as the modern woman working outside the home. I mean, and even though I'm not working outside the home, I think in her time for what women were told and promoted, that she did it, and she was very proud of herself. So maybe this lighting is a little better. I'm missing her today. It's my first Mother's Day without my mom. And that's why I wanted to be here, be with my community, be just checking the chat, be with those who can help talk me through anything. So if you are watching the replay, please comment below and let me know if you are in a similar boat or not, and just let me know how you're celebrating Mother's Day, please. I'm so curious. All right, let me put you down at my mat because we are cutting the second fabric. So this is one of those ditzy florals that I based my color palette off of. And I did the trimming of the extra little threads off of the right side. And then, so this is at the 16 mark, so I'm going to go back 5, which is 11. Let me double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Measured twice, cut once, right? I received a really nice card from my significant other this morning that was signed by him and my 2 sons. He signed it on their behalf. And he got donuts from my favorite donut shop. And what else? And he gave me cash because it's funny. He said, well, I wanted to get you a gift card from Ulta, but you just went to Ulta. And wanted to get you a gift card from the garden center, but you went there too. I'm like, so he gave me the cash. And your girl likes cold hard cash, that's for sure. So I said, that's great. Okay. Lining it up on the left side. Oh, get rid of that thread. And there we find our 10. It's a 5 by 10 cut. Second piece for our jolly bar. Maybe I'll set this up here so that it's within our view and we can keep track of how much we're doing. I'm going to line them up where they're a little bit staggered so I can count by 5s or 10s. Okay. I think we can get another section of 10 out of this one. I just love feeling the soft cotton. Don't think this one is quite 10. Nope, that's almost 8. So it'll go in my scrap pile. That'll be a nice scrap to have. All right, 3 down. And what, 39 to go. So since we have 2 already, I'm going to set the rest of the yardage aside or maybe cut a fat quarter since I have it handy. What am I going to do? Yep, I have fat quarters of the ones with the red, but not the ones with the orange flower. So because I have a lot of fat quarters already with the similar fabric with just the red flower, not the orange, I will go ahead and fold this yardage up. I might want to use it as a pillow backing or some other, like a large piece backing. So I keep that in a little bit bigger cut. All right. Let's move on to something with a little color. So this red and white gingham here, I like that it's on the bias. Makes really good binding and all sorts of things. I think it doesn't show as much as far as kind of telling on you if you are a little bit more inaccurate with a particular seam. So I'm looking really closely at the wrong side of the fabric and I'm trying to tell if I need to cut closer to 3/4 of a yard off or if I just need to cut the little bit of fringe off. And I'm not seeing where the wrong side tells me the story that it wants to have more cut off than just the fringe. So I'll line it up where the fringe goes on that line, and I'll cut just that off. When I do the dragging motion, I'm pressing down on my ruler, and then it's just going on the floor. I had the idea, tell me if this is a good or a bad idea. I had the idea of adopting something that the makeup YouTube influencers do in their little corner of the internet. They do this thing where they'll do a video on their empties. I'll tip you back up here and I'll chat at you. They'll take from their trash bin. I like to call it what's in my trash. They'll take from their trash bin and just go through the empty bottles that they've used of shampoo or conditioner or foundation or mascara. And they'll say if they'll reorder it or not, if they liked it, and if not, why they didn't like it. And I think we can do something like that in the quilting world. The little thread bin that we keep underneath our desk that has our sewing machine on it, I think it would be really neat to see that kind of gone through, and whether it's thread or a little cut of fabric like this. I want to hear the sewist or the quilter tell me how that got there. Would they order that fabric again to have in their stash? Did they like working with it? Was it too stiff or too thick or too thin? And what designer and fabric manufacturer was it? So I would love to hear if anybody would be interested in anything like that. Okay, I'm going to cut my 5. Even if it's just thread clippings, I'd love to understand the story as to what the thread is, what it was used for, hand sewing or machine sewing, and what weight it is, and if it's cotton or polyester. I'm a sucker for all those kinds of stories on the internet right now. I want to hear it. So the only thing with gingham is the cut, you really benefit from it being super accurate because it does tell on you a little bit more because it's so directional. I think I'm going to try to get right at the edge here. Actually, I think I am. I think I'm fine. They must have cut that yardage really well when they put it in the Fig Tree subscription box. Oops. I want to make sure I'm lined up because that didn't seem like it was on the right line, but that was just a matter of placement on the mat for me. Everything's pretty good. All right. Another good scrap in that pile. And another good 5 by 10. 4 down. And it'll go faster as we get going here. Looks like Chip, my significant other, is in the chat. We love scrap pieces. They're actually useful. They're always useful. I know. I'm kind of curious if the boys are watching me on TV, babe, what they think. The weather's beautiful here. I think spring has sprung and it's not going straight to summer like it does sometimes. I'm in a Sherpa fleece, but it's cold in the mornings and then it warms up. 15, I'm going to cut on the 10 to get my 5. And then cut, well, do we want to cut there? Let's cut there. And that's pretty darn accurate. Okay, flipping her around to where my sides that I just trimmed all the extra threads off are lovely 45-degree angle. And then we're cutting that scrap Jolly Bar piece. And there we go. 5 down. Woohoo! This is the remaining piece. It's not going to be wide enough or high enough, however way you hold it, for a fat quarter. So I'm just going to fold it, I think, in the dimensions that I would for a fat quarter, and maybe still put it in with my fat quarters. So let me show you how I'm folding this guy. So that looks pretty good there. And then thirds. I should probably demonstrate how I fold fat quarters too. So this will be pretty much like a miniature fat quarter. I'll get an actual fat quarter from my bin. This one's a little bit tall, but fat quarters are just a little bit bigger. So maybe I'll cheat him up a little bit when I put him in the bin, so that way he looks the same from the top. It's all about aesthetics, really. Over here at my bin, I'm putting him in. Okay. A little bit more ivory pieces here. This is the one from the subscription box. This is from her collection, Rosie. I recently became a fig tree fan. I don't really know what draws me to it. I want to say the colors are just so simple and pleasing to the eye. They are colors that go with pretty much everything. The prints are super simple. I think maybe what it is it reminds me of some of the fabric from the, what is that, the 60s or 70s, when my mom was sewing and she would make adorable things. They're just so vintage looking, and she had this beautiful vintage grandmother flower garden quilt on her bed at the farmhouse that she was raised in that we'd go visit. That was like my favorite place on earth. Grandma, fried fish from the pond, and Dr. Pepper. Grandma always made sure we had Dr. Pepper in the house when the kids came to visit. But I think it was her excuse to have Dr. Pepper around. My grandma passed when I was in my early 20s. She was really proud to see me graduate from college. And I'm named after her, named after my mom's mom. She's a fabulous lady all around. Good one to be named after. Okay. Get the extra fringy threads off this guy, and then I'll be ready to cut down. So they are in heaven, smiling down on me right now. It was actually my mom's mom who inspired me to quilt. Oh, this is perfect story for Mother's Day. I'll tip the camera back up so I can tell everybody the story. And get my tissue here again. I'm sniffling. When I was about a sophomore in high school, my grandma offered to make all of her grandchildren quilts. And I don't remember her being a person who sewed. But she was one of these people. She was so smart, so ahead of her time. She was born in the late 20s, and then she was like one of the only girls in her area to even go to college, even graduate high school and go to college. So she could really just look at an instruction booklet and probably figure it out. So when she said, "Oh, I'm a quilter now," how old was she? She would have been in her late 60s, I want to say. Yeah. And it just proves you can do anything, and it doesn't matter how old you are or if you've ever done it before. As long as you do beginner friendly stuff, I think you're fine. And she wanted to make a quilt for all of her grandchildren to someday be able to remember her by. I think I was one of the first that she sewed for. So I got to pick out the pattern, and my mom and I went and bought the fabric because mom and I loved just going to fabric stores and feeling the fabric and looking at the fabric. And because she was a garment sewist, my mom was, ever since she was really young. So going and learning about the different substrates of fabric, I didn't even know that was the word for them. I just knew like knits and wovens. So the different substrates of fabric in the fabric stores, and then quilting cotton was new for me to kind of consider, because garment sewists don't usually sew with quilting cotton. I want to try to change that. And then we picked that fabric out, and Grandma sewed it. I mean, it was not a fast process. And for a farm housewife to do all of the physical things needed for quilting, like cutting it out on her kitchen table, and she took it slow, and whenever her body told her it was done, that's when she was done for that particular chunk of time. And now I have a beautiful heirloom. It's well loved. I've put it on my bed and had it on my bed for many years, and now that I have little ones, it's off of the bed again, because I have a couple little monkeys jumping on the bed, and we do not go on top of quilts, we go under quilts. It's a great way to break the thread. Yeah, and so all of my cousins, I think there's about somewhere between 9 and 13 of us, that all received a quilt from Grandma in the 10, 15 years that she was quilting. And that is what inspired me to quilt, is seeing the memories, something tangible that people can hold on to that will outlive you. And it's your art, and with every piece that you sewed together, the person knows that you did that with them in mind. You can't get any better than that. So thank you, Grandma, for inspiring that in me. And then thank you, Mom, for all the trips to all the fabric stores. Yeah, they created a little sewist. Okay, fabric number 6. We're going to go ahead and start a little bit separate pile, so we go in 5s and it's easy to just count at a glance. Let's cut one more from that, because I did not do an extensive fabric pull. I don't think I had the 16 that I recommended, because in the subscription box when I opened it last night, it had more pre-cuts, like mini charm pack and charm packs, than I thought. So there were only 3 cuts of yardage, because you kind of like never know what you're going to get with one of those subscription boxes. So, and if we start, what do you call this? If we start a Jolly Bar and get halfway through it, and then just have to wait until we accumulate more fabric to really like make the colors work, then that's what we'll do. It'll just sit in stash, or be like a really pretty thing on the shelf until we want to finish building it out. There's no hurry. And that way, when we go to the fabric store or online, we can be more intentional with our buying too. Like, look at that gam and say, I need a dusty coral color, or whatever you want to build it out with. So here I'm folding my fabric, so hopefully I get similar dimensions to what I have in fat quarters. I'm just kind of playing with folding it in thirds or halves. So yeah, there's another little tiny square. And I'll take it over to my little bundles. Oh, I think I have a picture to share too. I'll just cover up my dad and my brother because I didn't ask them for permission before I shared the picture. But that's my mom in the early 90s and me. Apple tree. I was about 6 there. Yeah. She loved having a daughter. She dressed me up like her doll. And I think I liked it. From what I can remember, I think I liked it. I'm the youngest and the only girl, so my significant other has a lot of maintenance to do to maintain me. Like Chandler said in that episode of Friends with Monica, where everybody said Monica's actually a little high maintenance. Chandler said, "But I like maintaining you." And she said, "I didn't even tell him to say that." Okay, getting some extra threads off of our scrap piece because even though it's a scrap piece, it should be beautiful. Thread down, and our Jolly Bar piece. We have 2 of those cuts in here. Oh, so precious. So, this is our last piece from her Rosie collection. And this blue, I am obsessed with these blues right now. I just went to a consignment fabric shop yesterday and I bought a decent amount in that kind of a blue color. All right. Oh, this selvage is adorable. So she has little trucks, little red and blue trucks. Is anybody else a fan of selvage art? I have a whole bunch of Ruby Star selvages that I'm saving to make it's not a potato chip block, it's a string. I think you call it string block, where you string the selvages together. Oh, she even has something on her selvage for the Rosie collection. It says, "Come with me on a country drive in my 53 Chevy." Oh. I'm like playing with my fabric. I'm trying to figure out how I want to cut it. Because if I cut from here, it's only going to give me 1 cut. But if I cut like this and cut once, I can really have a lot of real estate to play with. But then it doesn't fit on my cutting mat the way that I have it. So I think I'll just do it this and then take my time with it. That's the thing that perplexes me about this hobby is when my fellow quilters say things like, "I don't have time for that." But I'm thinking, it's a hobby. I'm fluent in Spanish, and the Spanish translation of hobby literally translates to passing time. The word is pasatiempo. So when you say you don't have time for something, like making sure it's accurate, or there's a thing about efficiency and cutting efficiently, but if you are cutting corners, then I really want to encourage people to take a second glance. This year, past year probably, I've been getting into the meditative side of quilting and letting it be something that really helps my mind to stop running and to look at the beauty. 18, 12. Do I want to do the 12 mark? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13. My math isn't mathing. Thank you, cutting mat. The cutting mat will always tell you the story. Okay. Make sure it's right here. Yep. Trusty cutting mat. I've had this cutting mat my entire quilting journey, and it's on my list to get a new one. Maybe that's what I'll do with my Mother's Day cash. I don't know. And I'll put this up here for a second. My quilting journey probably started in my early to mid 20s, and I'm 39 right now. So yeah, I think I received that quilt from my grandma when I was 16. And then I finished high school and went to the college about an hour away and just focused on my studies. And I lived in the dorm, so there wasn't any room in your dorm room or anything, but your belongings that you need to go to school. So once I graduated college and moved back in with my parents, because 2009, if you know, you know. I don't think I'll cut that scrap frayed edge off. It's not that bad. And so I think I just used my mom's sewing machine and tried quilting because I was raised to be a garment sewist, but it really didn't jive with the level of patience or lack thereof that I have. So that's why I often refer to myself as a sewist, because I have every intention now that I have a little bit more patience because I'm a little older. I don't know if I'm a little wiser. I have a little bit more intuition. Yeah, I bounce back and forth between garment sewist. I am sewing right now. I have it right over here. This is the square neckline for a dress. So it is faced. So it has interfacing, and then you end up, I think, sewing them together. I haven't picked it up for several months, but you have to have your engineering hat on when you're a garment sewist. I sewed a sleeve. It's like a big flutter sleeve. I think there's 2 sleeves here. It's gonna have a big old flutter sleeve. It's this beautiful print. This was the print that Reese Witherspoon's company, I forget what it's called. She has like an apparel company, and they got into fabric production. Her company made for Joann's before they went out of business. I loved that blue, tangerine, the light pink with the sapphire background. So it's going to be a maxi dress, and I hope I get it done in time for this warm weather season. So I'm a sewist. I identify definitely as a quilter, but working my way back into garment sewist kind of territory. I follow Seamwork. I found their podcast one time on Apple Podcasts when I was searching something. I think I Googled top podcasts for garment sewing, and Seamwork was one of the top 5 that it gave me. I really like listening to Haley and, how do I say her name? Sari, chat about fabric and their everyday lives. So yeah, I had this cutting mat. We went to Missouri Star Quilt Co. in Hamilton, Missouri when we were down in my mom's hometown, which is the next town down on the highway from Hamilton. We went there when we were down visiting family for Thanksgiving one year in my early 20s. And it was a ball. Mom is such an enabler when we go to the fabric shop. And I think I have the pillow upstairs on the couch that I made with it, but I got a pinwheel pattern, and then I got red gingham, which is actually ironic because we're working with the red gingham. A red gingham and a light blue with kind of cartoony kind of birds on it, just stuff that made me happy. And then I sewed that up. Got our fabric folded up nice that we're not going to use. Set it on over here. I got this cutting mat. It's the Olfa 18 by 24. And now that I know I'm a quilter, and back then I was like a baby quilter. I was very new. And it's one of those things where you don't want to make a huge investment in it just in case you don't like it. And we didn't have Facebook Marketplace back then. I think we'd had Facebook around for maybe 5 years or so back then. I got on it in 2005 when I went to college. Okay. There's that second piece of the blue fabric. And we're almost to 10. This one is Fabulism. I think this is one of the last ones in the run that they did where they included a little bamboo cotton with their woven. So within the last year or so, I think I learned the difference in the quilting community between quilting cotton and woven. And I've sewn with woven a little bit. And I found the best thing to get you the best result is to, and to get a fuzzy off of there, to starch it. But this one is pressed only. It's not really starched. It's just like, see the drape on this woven, and then get a similar cut of quilting cotton. Quilting cotton holds its shape a little more. And then wovens, which isn't a bad thing. It just changes how you work with them. So that's where the starch comes in. It kind of plumps up all of the little pores. I'm going to call them pores. The warp and the weft, the weave. It fills in that weave so that it's more substantial and it doesn't have that like floppiness. So ideally before I put this in with the pre-cuts, and then because the idea of pre-cuts is that you can just go and start making. But I would probably starch this more. So, but this is wovens really do this fuzzy thing. The fuzzies are actually not the color of the fabric, they're white. But that is me. That's not Fabulism. That's because I'm a pre-washer, pre-shrinker. Let me show you my cutting mat again. I've been chatting at you a while. So, looks like this is just at 18. I'm gonna line it up. This cut is really wonky. See how it's like, bleh. Let's do 11. So I'm kind of peeking behind the fabric and lining my ruler up folding the fabric over it, lining my ruler up on the 11, maybe just a scorch back, and then I can always trim to get it right at 5 inches. And then up here, I don't need to fold back because I can see that it's marked on my, it's a little bit off camera, but I can see that my 11 mark is up there. So I'm cutting toward that because my ruler can reach it. Yay, got it all on the first cut. Sometimes when I don't get everything on the first cut and I have a couple of threads I need to go back and recut, I always thought that was my rotary blade being dull, but I think it's my mat. It's just that old of a mat. Oh, I didn't account for the area over here, so that's probably going to end up being a scrap. So I'm just going to put it in the scrap pile and recut. That's okay because now I have a good line. Now, I also had the idea, if we're talking about our own pre-cuts and we want it to feel like it is something from the retailer, even though it's from our stash or our yardage, sometimes it's nice to have that shelf piece that you can really show off and really be proud of, that you made on your own. Now, the manufacturer will send pre-cuts cut with a pinked edge. It'll have a zigzag edge around all the sides. And I misplaced my pinking shears for a second. I saw them recently, and then when I actually go to look for them, I can't find them. But what was I going to say? But what I had the idea of doing, which I think would even be a slower process yet, but hey, this is our hobby, right? Is you can mark with a pencil. You would actually want to do probably 5.5 instead of 5, because the zigzag is about 1/8 of an inch that it takes off, and you don't want to sacrifice that in your seam allowance. So I would probably draw with a pencil the 5.5 mark, and then I would go and like hand cut with the pinking shears. They also make rotary blades that have pinked edges too, that I think I have one, but I've never used it. And then go around like that, and then that way your 5x10 would be more like 5.5 by 10.5. And it would have the pinked edges. Now, when you sew, though, you would want to consider the innermost part of the pinked edge as your seam allowance. So you wouldn't really be able to sew with a seam guide or anything. So it just depends on how you sew. Kind of begin with the end in mind. Wovens can be kind of hard to cut because sometimes they want to wiggle on you, because I feel like this cut goes like this, but it usually ends up working out okay. They're just so much more bendy. They're like the gymnasts of the fabric world. I think it is a little bendy, and not in a good way. So that'll have to be our scrap side. Gotta leave that room for error. Okay, so that's our 45-degree angle on which we will base the 10-inch cut. And I'm smoothing it over. A woven really likes that smoothing over. So coming from a garment sewist background, when I first heard quilters refer to wovens like fabulism, I was lost. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're at 10 now. There's our first 5 down here, and then our second 5. I was really lost when I first heard quilters call Fableism a woven, because garment sewists consider anything that doesn't have stretch a woven. So quilting cotton and wovens to quilters are the same thing. They're just, to garment sewists, they're all wovens. Because you have knits that do have the stretch, either 2-way or 4-way. And those are a completely opposite category as wovens. And then in each one you get down to, like, woven side, you have rayon, and then you have synthetic, and then natural fibers. So rayon is synthetic, and then your quilting cotton is a natural. Yeah. Canvas is natural fiber. I think I'll put that one in my pile for the fat quarter bin, even though it's only like a half of a fat quarter. Okay, we just have a green and an orange left, and then I think we're gonna go ahead and say goodbye. Let's do the green. I think we'll have, let's see, about a third of a jolly bar done, and I'll just have to wait. I'll just have to wait for more fabric to come out. Now that I'm a relatively new Fig Tree and Company fan, I'll be getting more subscription boxes. They'll send out 4 this year, and they will send out fabric in those. So you can either use it for the project that they send you. Like, they sent patterns and things in the subscription box, and she tries to make it so you can get most projects done in a weekend. So that's really cool. So if I don't happen to end up doing the projects that she had visualized for that particular edition of the subscription box, they will go in my jolly bar if they're not pre-cuts on their own. If they're fat quarters, I can definitely put them into a jolly bar still. Oh, so this one is interesting that I'm working with. It has little orange peel designs on it. And that's one where I'm being really cautious again to make sure that I'm cutting in a straight line as far as the design of the orange peels is going. Because once you start piecing it, it's really gonna tattletale on you if you didn't get a good accurate cut on there. Whereas what I was just working with, the Fableism, it doesn't matter. Like a solid, I think that's one of the reasons why you see so many solid quilts. And I can definitely understand quilters who want to, well, and garment sewists who want to work with solids because they are very forgiving in that sense. Okay, just going around and clipping off my extra threads from the pre-washing process. I am a big pre-washer. Blues and reds, they just are, depending on the manufacturer and their mill, they can really bleed. And I don't really put that on the manufacturer or anything. The dyeing process is the dyeing process. You want to pre-wash, definitely, in my opinion. When I was younger and sewing my own clothes and things with my mom, that was always the worst kick in the shins, was when you would sew something and maybe the pre-washing, pre-shrinking process didn't get out all of the whatever the fabric is going to do once you start washing and drying it after you wear it, if it's going to shrink or if it's going to bleed. And it just is heartbreaking when you spend so much time and energy on that. And I think some quilters can attest to that, if it bleeds or if it shrinks so much more than you expected. All right. 11. And this one's going to be just a smidge short, so he's a scrap pile. Oh, hi, Andy. Happy Mother's Day to you, too. I want to know how you're celebrating. Thank you for joining my first live. It means a lot that you're here after a year-long week in Chicago. Or as a native Chicagoan would say, Chicago. I'm located about 2.5 hours southwest of Chicago, so I was, sending my energy in that direction and having FOMO. But I will be there someday when I have something to promote, I think. It ain't now. Right now, I'm just trying to be an advocate for my children and keep them clean and dry and exploring. Okay, we're cutting a second. I'm kind of going back and forth between the view of me and then the view of what I'm cutting. So we're cutting the second Jolly Bar piece, 5x10, and it's Moda, Sherry and Chelsea, because I think Sherry and Chelsea, they are the designers of this collection, Laguna Sunrise, that I'm working with. They really play nicely with a lot of things. I've used them with Ruby Star Company fabric next to them, and they're going to end up playing nicely with Fig Tree because that's another Moda designer. Clipping off my extra threads. And I don't see, it's like when it's not a fat quarter anymore, but it's not so tiny that it's a scrap. I hope it can masquerade as a fat quarter. I'm going to tip you down so that you can see how I'm folding it. So I'm just getting it pretty much the dimensions of the rest of my fat quarters. Yeah, he can definitely masquerade as a fat quarter. Don't tell anybody. Andy, I was showing my mom. Sorry, there's a shadow there. That's me when I was about 6. This is 92. This was taken. Look at those dresses. I don't think she made them. I think she bought them from JCPenney's. We have matching dresses. So stinking cute. I was her little baby doll. And it's my first Mother's Day without my mom. And I'm just telling memories of how she got me into sewing. I haven't shed any tears yet, though, because they're such happy memories. Good. There is our second 5x10 cut for a Jolly Bar of that. That's like a leaf green, Moda calls it. And I noticed in Joanna's palette online, she has a shop. It's shop.figtree.co. Sorry, Fig Tree and Company. Shop.figtree and Company. And she has her palette on there. She has a couple similar colors as Sherry and Chelsea, other Moda designers have, which is leaf and cantaloupe, like a beautiful apricot color. But I'm not using cantaloupe because I'm actually using the GAM on the selvage for the inspiration for the coordinates, the coordinating fabric that I am using for this fabric pull for this Jolly Bar. So I'm leaning more into dusty salmon colors, like a dusty pumpkin orange, and then this leaf green. I think it'll make something beautiful for fall. Now, also on blog.figtreeandcompany.com, this week they published a Jolly Bar pattern. And I think it's going to go really well with Anybody who has a Jolly Bar. It's hearts. It's like a scrappy heart. And I love hearts because I was born around Valentine's Day. Okay. We're on our last fabric. I'm not going to cut the ivory fabric with the red flowers. We're going to cut it off after our orange because I'm thirsty and I didn't bring any water down to my sewing room. Okay, this little fabric looks really good. So this is that dusty pumpkin color, I think I'm calling it. So pretty. Okay. I'm just lining her up on one of the vertical lines I can find, and I am cutting off some of the frayed threads. Let's see what Andy's saying. Breakfast with your mom and daughter? That is so neat. I'm sure you went to a restaurant that you're familiar with so that you knew it was a good meal, so you weren't risking anything. Like, you just didn't want anything to possibly compromise your really great day. Let's see. I wonder if I cut my 10. I think I'm going to try not just cutting my 5. I'm going to go ahead and cut a 10, and I think it'll be a little bit more efficient. So if I'm on the 5, I'll need to be on the 15 for the cut. Yep, and it didn't come off right away cleanly, and that could be my rotary blade. It's also because I cut on the 15, and that's a really common line on the cutting mat to cut on. So possibly time for a new cutting mat. I've been really, talking about breakfast, I've been really enjoying stopping at a pancake house after I dropped my son off at preschool. And you can park right next to the door and just shimmy on in and get your order that you either called in or put in online. And they have the most delicious pancakes. They should be illegal. They're more like cake than a pancake. I went there for lunch with a friend who works by that pancake house, and I got pancakes, and oh my gosh. My youngest son is my enabler when it comes to pancakes because he will scarf down an order of pancakes. I found this birthday cake pancake mix recently in the store, and I snagged it up because, oh, he would love that. Is it the baby that will love it or me? Ooh, well, I don't think I'll be able to get a third cut. I think that's 4.5. Yep, that's like 4 3/4 down there. So that one will go in scraps. Andy also had said that she made a quilt in Laguna Sunrise, and it's a great palette. I agree, and it's one of their only collections that has purple as far as I've seen. And I love purple. It's my favorite color. Okay, so I don't need to cut anymore because I cut on the 10 to start with that round. So I think that was a little more efficient. Cut on the 10 first and not the 5. Okay, 4 there. Should I go ahead? I just want to finish that set of 5. I'm going to go ahead and cut into linen cupboard with the red ditzy floral. And this gam is just a little bit different, but not too much. It has your bright cherry red, a couple of good taupes, that leaf green, and then a coral. So I really want to find more coral. I don't think I have a lot in my stash that is this beautiful couple of corals right here. So when I go to the fabric shop, I will have my eye open for that for sure. We love shopping with intention. However, when I've been going to my local fabric shop lately, they are huge Ruby Star fans, and so am I. And I've been stitching up. They just got Mystic Fable in because I do a block swap of economy star blocks probably like once or twice a year. I just found that online, and you mail your blocks into Texas, and then they mail you back other people's blocks that they've made. So I talk about it more on my video. I'll tip you up here so you can see me. I talk about my economy block swap on my video about sew-alongs. So you can pop over there and check that out if you want to hear more about that particular group. Where to find it, I have a link in the description. And oh my gosh, this fabric is so soft. Moda, just butter. It's butter in your hand. And it doesn't even need pre-washing as far as the softness. It's soft right off the bolt. But what was I talking about? Favorite color, purple. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Okay. Good. Well, I'm gonna miss you guys when I stop the live here shortly, and I think I'm gonna go grab one of those donuts that my partner Chip got me for Mother's Day. He's so thoughtful. Ooh, I think I'm gonna get another cut. I'll be able to start the third row. Isn't that the thing though? That's like how Netflix does it, is they end one episode by leaving you on a cliffhanger so that you have to start the next episode. So this starts number 16 and I'm going in sets of 5. So now I just want to keep cutting, but I'm at the end of the fabric pull I did there. So I think I gotta cut it off for today. I'll show you the final. Get a good light here. Yeah. And then they will go on top of the corrugated board when I'm all done showing you. And I'll just write on a piece of paper like 16. And they'll go in just like a stack, like this one that I have done. And a retailer would package it in plastic, but I don't have a plastic wrapping machine. So it'll probably just go, well, it'll collect dust on the shelf if it's like that. So we'll figure something out. But yeah, Jolly Bar. I think they named it that also because it's kind of like the size of a big Wonka bar, little chocolate bar. So that makes me happy. And I really thank you for joining me, whether you're watching live or the replay. And please leave a comment or a like so that more people can find this video and we'll be able to build our community. Thanks again. We'll see you later.